Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the rank 1 Terran in the world in the red. It's Team Liquid's Clem, facing off against his greatest nemesis, the rank 1 Protoss in the blue, the smiling assassin. We have herO in a best of 5 Terran versus Protoss playoff showdown as part of the $5,000 Team Liquid map contest tournament. And before we get started, it'd be incredible if you could smash that like button or maybe even subscribe. Let me count the algorithm. And Jimmy, what do we have? 1,841 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far, and hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better than the very first probe who couldn't help itself but come back in for a little taste. And its taste will be its last. But it's an important scout, as Clem didn't shut the door in its face, but instead we'll see the factory timing, the 2 gas, and Adept will follow it up, but with the reactor done and Marines pumped out, it should be enough to keep a relatively safe working environment for that first SCV. So, herO, no one's safe in a game with herO in it. Least of all, sometimes, herO himself. But it's 2 Adepts versus 5 Marines, which should be enough Marines. The Marines outrange the Adepts, though the shade ability makes it a little bit more confusing. But if you get even a half step too close, the Adept will get that attack off. Continually, the revolving door of Adept shades sniffing with their ethereal noses up against the supply depot. They don't have the vision because the shade, but Blink is on the way. The next in a series of vision-restricting names, but surprisingly mobile abilities. And he just commits. He goes for it right out of the barracks, murders one of the Marines. A second one pops out, and, well, this seems like another in the series of asking whether or not you could, rather than whether or not you should. herO takes out 3 Marines. He's lost 2 Adepts. So when you go for this many Adepts early, it feels like a Stargate. Rarely do you see more than one by someone who's going for anything but a Stargate. And herO manages to lose 3 Adepts, but it's Blink. He's just going Blink behind him. And that may catch Clem by surprise, assuming he doesn't just kill herO, who has a grand total of 3 Stalkers, which is better than none, but only just. As the Marines are coming across the map, there's a medevac. He'll have high ground vision. A ramp up to the high ground here on Verdant Temple, but, well, the medevac will spot it. He sees the robo. I think at this point he realizes it is indeed Blink, despite the somewhat convoluted start. Saves the Marines at the last second. The Cyclone wondering if he can get a seat, but unfortunately it takes up far too many. It's just not economical. Meanwhile, Blink 4 seconds out. The Marines and the Clem was pretty convinced this was almost anything else. He's building a bunker. He's got the siege tank. He will be able to retreat to the high ground just barely in time. But that push out there really implied that he thought herO was going a different direction. But herO, the master of disguise, sometimes fooling himself, but oftentimes fooling his enemies. And many times both. Robotics Bay is already on the way. Charge has begun as well. The Stalker's just roaming around. There's the... It looks like that's a low ground there. Well, that's how usually sea level works. But 2 high grounds on either side of the center. A kind of parallel base. I assume you can blink over. And herO's assuming that as well. Blinks over the top. Where's the siege tank in the mineral line? Gets a Marine. Ghetto blinks back into the prism. There's rocks and Zerg rocks here to help block things off. Though the Zerg rocks time out after 8 minutes. Of course, you can always help it along. Everyone dropping in and out and doing the hokey pokey, but so far, not finding any damage all about. Extended thermal lance on the way, which has some catching up to do, but a single medevac sent out as Clem. herO's out there. He doesn't always know exactly where, but the Blink Stalkers will be in the most inconvenient place, no matter how well prepared. He blinks in again. The siege tank, without quite the range, draws out an auto turret. Meanwhile, the medevac working its way over. There's an immortal just kind of chilling. Looks like hero a Spylon to start, but wouldn't be surprised if he just slaps down another Nexus. That medevac looking for an angle, finally finds it. The Warp Prism and also a single select all army from hero, his favorite hotkey, maybe his only hotkey. As right now he has 2 hotkeys for his Warp Prism. He has 1 Warp Prism, right? Yes. Well, it needs the extra attention. So in case he mashes his keyboard on either the 1 or 2 key, well, it looks like the Stalkers are on that first one, but only the Warp Prism on the other. And the rest of the units will be controlled through various means. But the main army, there's so much space to cover. He knows the map is dark and potentially full of Terran. What the f... Did you see that? Is that... Apparently, yes. That is a Reaper Cliff / Colossus Divot working title, where you can pass all the way from the natural to the relatively distant third. Another base down the center, but there is no quick attack path here. At least for your own units. It's actually kind of closer to the enemy rush distance. We'll have to see. I don't know how much, if at all, either of these players have charted the treacherous waters and meandering terrain of Verdant Temple. But it seems like we're going to get a full experience here as they're charting multiple bases and hero expanding quite aggressively. Clem has taken his third. The charge slots multiple siege tanks here to meet them, and the bio not too far behind. A single Marine stimming across the map, seeing, well, what he can see. The Stalkers. That's going to be a no. The border control Stalkers are enough. The charge lots, the scouting expedition, not entirely. It is successful. In fact, that is a wildly successful scouting expedition. He found almost every single one of the Marines and Marauders that Clem had. So, did he lose all his zealots? Yes. Was it worth it? That's not important. What's important is he now knows that Clem has a whole bunch of bio, which he probably couldn't have figured out on his own. That was all sarcasm, by the way, just in case. That was a big mistake out of hero. He lost a ton of zealots for almost nothing. Clem scans the main, though. Just checking for any sort of big tech switch. Templar archives, multiple robos, occasionally a Stargate. But the robos are on the low ground. The brobos here. Right next to one another. Double Ruptor production. Which, well, a dangerous game. Disruptors can be an incredibly dangerous unit to both sides, as they one-shot every single Protoss gateway unit that isn't a Templar. And Dark Templar, well, technically everything but Archons. And that isn't really a gateway unit. They don't quite one-shot Marauders, but Marines are a bit easier. Another shot, the fadeaway. The Vikings, though, just right over the top, knocks down a Colossus. He will likely lose the rest of the Vikings, though. The bio ball rolling through. The danger balls from the Protoss, not enough to stop him. Goes for one. Split stims, but actually miscues it. Eats a couple balls to the face. And, well, that could have been phrased better, but hero's attack, it was off to a rough start. But he brought it together and baited Clem into a less than ideal position. So it ends in a significantly better spot. But not necessarily a good one, as he just has a bunch of disruptors, fires off a double barrel. Moore has to keep him away with the most dangerous force fields, especially with the anti-armor missile. Another shot. Probes transferring in the midst of everything. All right, they don't get a day off. Meanwhile, Warp Prism right in the midst of the natural. Just dives directly into the base, and the Vikings may take it out, but a Ghost will be eviscerated. The SCVs as well. Disruptors. Clem eats another hit. Another couple. The siege tanks at the natural. He's chrono boosting more out of the Brobos. No, whoa, 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 whoa. Danger close. Oh, he walled off his disruptors. Another couple go right through the bio. The Zealots are still chewing through, but beautiful hold position. Clem abusing the fact that the Zealots are single-minded entities. And wow, this is Clem. Well, he defends with relative ease, but the attack is starting to be thinned out. The Colossus are toppled. The Viking, a single Viking, hits the deck and will eat a disruptor shot that it probably never needed to, but then gets VIP treatment into the medevacs. So Clem with the manipulation on the SCVs. When they're on hold position, they don't count as threats, so they form a wall of sorts. The Zealots were trying to get behind them, but they simply could not pass. And if Clem was to tell it, they shall not. But on the other side, the Disruptors eventually added up the damage. The Warpins brought enough gateway units together, at least for now. One Disruptor pop, but there's more where that came from. Another couple shots follow through. One down the center, a few more Marines. But Clem continuing to stim forward. EMP, couple Colossus coming down the ramp. But without any Vikings and not enough Marauders, he can't contest it. herO's production is still far too high. How many next eye? 5 bases. He's now mining from the top left corner. He has a slight income lead, but Clem, he's got his 4th base with a planetary fortress down the center. And the Valley of Death, filled with the tears of both sides, is currently the standoff location. 2-2 upgrades for Clem. 2-2 has just kind of started for herO. He's working with an upgrade disadvantage, which is kind of rare for Protoss against Terran. But the Disruptors don't care about upgrades. They might care about armor against the bio, but it is technically spell damage, so it does the same amount on the other side. EMPs and wipes out the Warpin. Also denies any chance of a recall. herO sending his forces to the north, though he still has plenty down the center. The Disruptors are fully loaded, but he's got to make sure he fires off his shots at the right time. Too early? Not great. Too late? Even worse. But it's an art form, or so they tell me. Meanwhile, casual Colossus. Few Stalkers. The rest of Clem's forces consolidating in the top left corner. herO bringing everything. Meanwhile, 200 supply across the board. Couple Raptors, and oh, the Vikings find a great angle to knock down the Colossi. The Disruptors trying to find anything as Clem is retreating up into the corner. But it is indeed a corner that herO could pin him against. There's just still so much damage. And the fact is, Clem has a better set of units with better upgrades. Without the Disruptors, or even the Colossus, he can't go up that ramp. But the Disruptor with a huge fadeaway shot. Clem looking the other way for a moment, and he gets his face melted off. He's going to go for the planetary. Brings it around the corner. Barely clips an SCV. Zones out with another Raptor shot. 11 probes dead in the midst. More Disruptors rallying across the map. The planetary falls. That was quite an effort. He splits his way back, parting the Red Sea. And oh no, some Zealots get caught in another Disruptor shot. But herO just keeps flinging them out. And another one. And another one. More ghosts caught by the Colossi. And the action continues across the map. But Clem, unable to keep up the supply. He loses his 4th base, whereas herO still has 4 to fall back to. Though not too many more workers. Disruptor shot goes a little bit wide. He has 9 Disruptors right now. Fires off another one. Pops it. 2 more. Medevac's almost entirely out of energy. They may have been EMP'd by the ghosts, or it's just the amount of stims. Another volley. There are so many Disruptors, but not all the shots are landing. Some of them getting popped, some of them hitting Zealots. And at the end of the day, when the smoke clears and the Disruptors are not cooled, but wait, there's more. Another couple shots. 1, 2, fire everything! But the medevacs are obscuring how many units are left over. There's only a few Stalkers. There's still enough Marauders. Knocks down a Liberator. Disruptor shot comes a little bit short. It's almost impossible to tell what's happening underneath it. But we're just gonna have to... How is herO down 30 supply? Well, that's one way to tell. And he just warped in. Clem taking a ridiculously cost-effective fight across the field. He's lost 5,000 less resources. He's killed 20 Disruptors. He's gonna have 3-3 upgrades. herO building 3 Colossi at a time. 3 Disruptors. But Clem, he's coming up the ramp. And what was once a 200 versus 200 supply game, neither player is getting even close to it at this point. 3-3 upgrades done! Did he just shoot down his own medevac? How am I supposed to keep up with this? I don't know. Meanwhile, almost steps into his own Disruptor shot, taking out the Liberator, but he does so at the end of the day. More SCVs. Here we go. Yet again, fighting on both sides. The drop is slaughtering the probes, but he goes right into the thermal lances. He's going to drop his way in. The Zealots have gotten cleaned up, but the base is under fire. Full energy recalls back, but the drop in the natural, and he just recalled. He's going to have to run all the way back home. The drop is sent down. It's... How many medevacs? 11 medevacs, and almost all of them here. And there's less than 11 units underneath, but the Nexus will fall. Stalkers on either side. One of the full medevacs will be sniped off. And Clem, He comes back in. The drop at the 9 o'clock. The medevacs will escape. The probes. Hero plummets to a 16-worker lead, but the Nexus falls. Yet another one he picks up, and he gets out of the game. Units lost tab it is. Another medevac is gunned down. But Hero manages to retake the supply lead. He's on the chase. Clem reconsolidating. He's been forced all the way back. He decided to trade away, and Hero may go forward. Looking for an angle. Guardian shield. He will not be intimidated. Knocks down the Liberator. Disruptor shot down the center. 3 Colossi holding the line so far, and only 2 Vikings to challenge him. The Marauders can't get close. Blinks forward. Knocks out another Liberator again. Targets down the Vikings. Now there's only 2. And the medevacs are straying forward. Easily taken him out as well. The boys from either side. He's trying to get on top of it. Pops a Ruptor. Gets a Colossus. Liberator over the top. And Hero. It's not enough. Clem holds. But we gotta ask ourselves that question. Have you liked and subscribed? And at what cost? He lost 11 SCVs. He pulled the boys. It looked desperate, and it was. But it also was enough. Clem, instead of continuing to get whittled away by the sheer amount of splash damage, sacrifices the SCVs. The battle continues across the lines. More disruptors on the way as Hero. Still committed to the mass robo. No Templar of any flavor. EMPs. The Ghost helping out. The drop. This is a different one. Deja vu. We've just been in this base before. But this is a different medevac in a very similar scenario. The income. Hero still has an advantage. He's got stalkers on either side. Zealots all over the place. He's lost 114 Zealots so far. And it's not quite the end of it. Though it seems like both sides are struggling to... The fact that both players are barely able to get to 100 supply, if that. The recall. And... does he have blink? Did he blink into recall? Apparently. And that means Clem has a chance to get some more damage done. The army supplies are almost dead even. Oh my. And another base just will be targeted down, and there's only so many bases left to mine from. All of these probes! Oh no! It's a disaster for Hero. He loses another base and 17 probes, but somehow some Zealots down the center. The rest of the army. The rush distance between the enemy base and down the center is surprisingly short, and that's been a point of contention the entire game. But most of Hero's army is here. A couple drops were sent out by Clem, which means he doesn't have everything back at home. And by a couple, I mean most of his army. We're going into a base trade. Sure, here we go. How long on recall? Too long. Almost a full minute. And, well, Clem has almost nothing in production. He is flat broke. But he could completely cut off Hero's production as well. And his buildings fly. Abandon ship. Abandon your posts. Flee. Flee for your lives. As every building from Clem's base that possibly can picks up and will fly away. Meanwhile, they'll expect one of us in the wreckage, brother. The double robo! The disruptors pop out! But it may cost Hero. They immediately die. More production offline. But Hero's building cannons. The Zealots are chopping through. Clem is fighting for a draw. He has not rebuilt his base. It is being revealed, which means all Hero has to do is live with any amount of probes. Everyone's piloted to the center. The disruptors. The probes. He dodges a few. There's not enough. It's not enough. Hero brings everything together. He cuts Clem. Well, watch out, okay? Hero almost shoots himself in the back. But Hero, after one of the most intense 20 minutes of StarCraft 2 that I've ever seen, in a complete and utter display of chaos and madness, navigates. He still never got 3-3 upgrades. Just throwing everything and seeing if the game follows. But no. Hero survives and succeeds. Well, yeah. Of all the games I've ever seen, that was one of them. 1-0 hero. Clem. You know, Clem, a little bit salty about that one. Almost nothing hero did was the correct play. It made sense, but instead of building up the right army and doing the right thing, he's always just a little bit off kilter. And it never seems to bother him. But his opponents, on the other hand, especially this opponent, a tendency to be caught off guard, no matter how many times, because it's not the same thing. It'd be impossible to replicate. Like, even though Clem had such great moments, those SCVs on hold position, specifically hold position, if you put them on stop command, it has to be hold position, they have to be a wall off, otherwise it doesn't work. But denying that there were 8 or 9 zealots stuck behind a wall of SCVs that were just standing there like conscientious objectors. But it still wasn't enough. Alright, okay. We gotta reset. All us mildly sane people, which includes everyone but the player in blue in the top right here, Blackrock, our orc-based map. Might be like, what does that even mean? Well, another few things. You might have been told there's no cow level. I'm sorry to disappoint, but indeed, this map is filled with cows. The orcs presiding over them. I thought it was a World of Warcraft reference, which really dates me, because I played World of Warcraft before Warcraft 3, so no judgment. What are you going, hero? Yes, save me from my flailing here with your own. There's a pylon on the opposite side of the map, just in the midst. All right, that's it. He's just gonna... Wow. Wow, it's just a hidden second pylon. This is a PvP strat where you just hide, because Clem knows you're supposed to have a second pylon. Oh, kills off a probe. And will get out, bounces the stalker away. Just disrespectful. Clem knows you're supposed to have a second pylon. So now he's wondering, where is your second pylon? Are you proxying me? But he also saw the Stargate, so... Yeah, he's gonna kill... The stalker just left. He's now killed, not... He's dodging the Reaper shots with the assimilator. He may end up losing said Reaper. Yeah. What? What? What was that jump? One of those awkward angle. So,
complete.
Clem knows there isn't a second pylon, but he also saw the Stargate, which it's very hard to actually build a Stargate in your base and also proxy something while still having any amount of money. And he's gonna see in the main. Oh my god, he's gonna get another one. Not this time. This time he gets hunted down and killed. I mean, just a casual stalker. Clem is so scared that there's more to this. He's sitting on the top of his ramp intentionally in case there was another gateway or something, but there's nothing. The fear. Heroes put the fear in his heart. But, and while fear might be the mind killer, minds, on the other hand, are very dangerous to oracles. Unfortunately, there's none of them. Not at the moment. He goes for the Stargate. Sorry. He goes for the Cyclone to counter the Stargate. Countering my own thought process there, but that happens on all too frequent occasion. Like and subscribe for Existential Dread. Phoenix. Just scouting around. Checking in on all the livestock, all the orcs. All the water features. All the sponsored by Monster Energy. Mostly scouring for any sort of drop. Which, between 4 and 5 minutes is quite likely. But instead, Clem is going for a bio push. herO's swinging all the way to the other side of the tech tree. Robo Bay in production. So we'll be trying to catch Clem off guard with the speed of what I assume is Colossi, because if he goes Disruptors, that's just suicidal. There's no way. Like, part of the reason Disruptors can work is the threat and ideally existence of Colossi. Because if it's just Disruptors, it can micro to his heart's content. Which, well, well, looks like we'll be walking today. But the Colossi force you to not split your units into small groups. Because if you do so, the Colossi and the rest of the gateway units will just... Well... hero doing his best to annoy the units on their way across the map. A few sentries back at home. The orcs looking on, looking down on him. Not metaphorically, quite literally. The tight set of rocks here, kind of straining the bio army. It's not going to work. Why is there a warp prism phased in over there? Ah, the things hero will do to make sure he doesn't accidentally fly his warp prism in with the select all army hotkey. Classic. Would never be accused of that. Classic has like a whole different control scheme. All very fancy, very meticulous, and less successful. Because we all know the best Protoss are ones who have at least a few screws loose. Maybe Clem will find the spot on now. Oh, try to hide the Colossus. The cow will help. The scan, though, will give away the rest as Clem getting a little bit suspicious that there's more than meets the eye. That hero's surprisingly defensive, despite having some of the most aggressive early units in Phoenixes. The War Prism joining in. It's just the one Colossus timing, but that's 4 Phoenixes. I mean, 5 Phoenixes and 4 Vikings. Guardian Shield. He's thinking about going for it. Nothing in production right now for hero, by the way. The War Prism targeted by the Vikings and knocked out of the sky. So now hero's just going to go for, well, the rest. But going forward, the Colossus great force fields will actually lock out some of the Marines. The Colossi incinerating them. And now there's 2. But the Vikings, Phoenixes still intact, can help zone them out. Been a huge part of this so far. Just blasted through the bunker. Doesn't quite get it in time. Maybe there's some time to repair. Finds another base. Not much there, but oh no, the missile turret outflanks the Phoenixes. Takes down 2. The Phoenix is eating some of the Viking volleys, but this is going from bad to significantly worse. Reinforcements of sentries coming across the map, but he's gonna need millennia at this rate. Oh no. Hero still has a supply lead, somehow. The Vikings will... Oof, bit of an awkward stutter there, but... Stimming to chase, realizing that without a single Colossus, charge and +1 just started. Hero was fully committed to the attack and multiple times has had an opportunity to go back and build up and has not taken it, which means he's up against quite a strong bio army with just gateway units. He's gonna knock down these rocks. Create... No, watch out, cows! Okay. They amble out of the way in time. Clem will open up the rocks. Hero will close them. Which I kind of demonstrates the whole... I was trying to come up with something profound, but instead, all we have is this attack. As the Guardian Shield... Give me, edit that out. That was just sad. The double drop into the main. The Templar Archives will be stopped before it can even begin. The Colossus! Oh no! But oh yeah! Well, what a save. Wait, no, the Prism! A dangerous game. Hero raising my blood pressure yet again. His supply also curiously low. What a roller coaster. But it truly feels like hero... Another Prism! Maybe he needs to continue phasing him in. Clem loads up yet again. Splits off the drops. And it really feels like hero had a plan, but his plan did not survive contact. And again, for the second time, a Templar Archives, he was going to put in the most vulnerable location. And a second time, it will be stopped before it can even be started. Is Blink done? No! Clem just out of reflex moved like Blink was done. But hero just started it. Because remember, this started with the Stargate. He's going to recall 3 zealots. A scan. Clem anticipates it. The scan would have covered both bases. Unfortunately for hero, he doesn't have both bases. And for long, he's not going to have this one for long either. As Clem is setting his sights and about 50 more army supply with better upgrades towards that base. The drop shutting down any units over to the right. How many Colossi? 3 of them. The Vikings! Whoa, whoa, whoa! The Vikings! Out on their own. This is the best case scenario, but Blink is not done to chase. The Vikings with a much quicker path as the crow flies. Then the Bio Army waltzing out. But the drops in the main, there's absolutely nothing to defend. He just used recall on the saddest amount of zealots. So, a single Colossus in the main base, he'll just be tearing right through the forges. The Marauders will step up and... Oh, the probes! The citizen's arrest saves the Colossus. But 14 probes dead. A few more zealots cleaned up back at home. Blink, still conspicuously absent. Hero has survived, but he certainly has not thrived. And he drops right back in. Blink still very clearly not done. The Widow Mine sacrifices a probe to it. And it's not getting much easier. Hero does not have the upgrades. He just lost the Forge. He never got the Templar Archives. He does not have nearly the advantages. Well, he didn't have many advantages in the last game, but at least the supply wasn't as devastating. But Hero's running out of options, and his units are running out of random areas in the base. The pathfinding has found the worst possible angle. A Colossus just dies. Clem will finally open up the last set of rocks. The Blink is just too late. Don't watch. The Viking count is too damn high. Their ghosts mixed in. A disruptor! Complete airball. The Nexus is gone. And this game has been quite a disaster piece for Hero. He looked for that Colossus Phoenix timing. He found death. Though that disruptor shot actually landed. I don't think it'll stave it off. But I might be incorrect. That single disruptor shot just kept Hero in the game. For how much longer? Ooh. At least until my voice finishes cracking, I guess, but... I'm trying to fly off into the lagoon. Now, if Hero could take out every single one of these medevacs, then that would certainly extend the game a bit. Only one of them full of units. He's not dead. But the gap between not losing and winning is exceedingly wide. Well, trying to chase down these medevacs, they still find an angle to drop out. And then the rest of the army, with a just gratuitous amount of ghosts, will show up. Another Phoenix was built. Unfortunately, this Nexus will be dead before anything else happens, really. Can jump on the Colossus, knocks it down with ease. The cows will watch, surprisingly bloodthirsty. Disruptor popped. Gateway units gunned down. The drop comes out again. There were 2 ghosts in there. And Hero will fight to the bitter end. But it is indeed the end. mean, I guess that's part of fighting against Clem. You fight till literally no units. He has 1 disruptor. Okay, hero. GG. He'll finally tap it out. I think a little bit extra, just to kind of bait the hook for Clem. But the Clempire strikes back. We're all tied up. After 2. Hero trying a more unique strategy. And maybe straying a little bit too far from the path. It could have worked if not every part of it was scouted by Clem before it happened. Unfortunately, he saw the Stargate, he saw the Oracle and then Phoenixes. He got... Now, you can't lose 2 probes to the Reaper. He did. He almost lost 3. That is over 10% of your economy. That's just unacceptable. But... moving on. I want to thank you for watching. You, here on YouTube. And I know, did I just say tube? Yes, this is a map with worker tube. Wow, that was... oh, that barely came together, and much the way Hero's strategy barely came together last game, as we meander around, in much the same way the tubes do not. Our newest feature... and I'd be very... honestly, I don't know if either of the maps... I think there's only 2, maybe 3. Every map needs some sort... I just want to see tubes, like, through your mineral line. Why not? You want to pop to the other side when there's a Liberator? Why not? Why can't we construct tubes? I've stayed on the tube thing for too long, but... we'll see. We'll roll with it. Much like... but here on Fear and Faith... spawning in relatively close positions, vertical positions, 4-player map, which we've had precious few of, mostly because of the RNG factor, I guess. Pro players would rather play on, maybe Hero notwithstanding, but the same like 2 to 3 maps reskinned over and over and over again, if possible. So we try to, like, we're going to try to turn this into like League of Legends, where play the same map for 16 years and change up a few of the details, but in my opinion, humble and modest opinion, many smart people in the comments have called me that. Not my words, just there. So Hero managed to scout in the least efficient. He scouted cross positions, and now he's taking the tube to the northeast. Oh, I was saying something about maps. We need more map variety. We need something. Because as much as I like watching, mostly for players who aren't these players, you might be like, I want to see the other players. Unfortunately, every time we see the other players, the players who aren't in the top 20, the algorithm via the people says people aren't that interested. And I think because the maps are so figured out in the style, not this one again, but in general, it's just an impression of we're watching the same players but worse. When you see players doing a very similar strategy, who are we going to throw under the bus? Like a Cure doing a Clem strategy. It's like Clem, but worse. There's not a lot of room for creativity. Somewhat literally when it comes to the maps, because of how figured out the expansion patterns and the build orders and the rush distances and all that are. So I would love to have a whole bunch more maps and then make it impossible for players to veto all of the, especially in like best of 5s and 7s, maybe best of 3s, not so much because you just pick 2 of them, but Hero with the hidden base, stuff like this. One of the most simple ones. And now technically this is not even that hidden. Not what I meant. Wow, we're struggling with words today. Hopefully it's not as bad as it seems in my head, but moving on. Another SCV scout via the tube, but the tubes connect the main base and this base. So we could easily transfer workers. Well, I guess easily is relative, but there's a commuter train to and from that he could use in order to get workers to his now 3rd base. So we'll see if Clem scouts for it. Conveniently for Terrans especially, you can block this off with a single depot. Though I believe you can send the worker across, it would just be kind of stuck at border control there. Technically, hero could do the same, but I think he wants to keep the opportunity open. And it is just workers who can be smushed into the tubes. Unfortunately, you can't be sending a bunch of Marines or Zealots via tube. I've said tubes too much. My semantics are so satiated right now, but... And now yours are too. Bzz. But... Blink. Nearly completed. A Raven strolling across the map, but seems to have no intention of scouting for that top right corner. Meanwhile, though, the bunker with a siege tank behind, but the siege tank not quite in range. Almost gets in range to take a hit on the toes there. And hero with another completely different style. He's going to slap down the Templar archives, which will be scouted immediately by the Raven. And did he recall? Oh, disappointing. Recall is on cooldown, which means he didn't transfer via tube. I assume you can put more than one worker in the tube at a time. I don't know what the load capacity of the tube is. Did Clem? Clem definitely looking for it. There should have been a third. And he found it. Yeah. Not exactly ideal here. The Raven will eventually get that ground and pound. But Storm is on the way. Hero has committed a lot to both his infrastructure and his tech. And right now is a grand total of 8 units. Which, as a great man, Day 9 once said, when your opponent's doing something weird, go fucking kill him. And Clem, this is starting to look a little premeditated. Storm is on the way, but hero gives up on the idea and just merges into an Archon. He has a grand total of 5 gateways. He's at 60 probes, but he's got serious problems right now. Very lucky to catch the siege tank. Actually, Clem... Oh, but the warp prism dies, of course. Not the biggest blow. Not at this stage. And Clem losing the tank and about 5 or 6 Marines on the way across the corner actually turns this from a potentially dangerous army to Clem's fighting retreat. And it's becoming a total rout. How long on Blink? Not quite long enough. Or maybe too long, depending on who you're rooting for. The Widowmines smack into the Zealots and make this a much more dicey scenario. The Archon will be picked off. A costly overextension as hero is dug too deep and too greedily. Another Prism on the way. Knocks out a sentry. Picks up Medivacs and going every which way now. Clem headed towards that top right corner. Meanwhile, Widowmine drop could be intercepted. Drops out the mine. Everything goes down. But there's nothing. Oh, he anticipated it. Or he spotted. I think there was a probe transferring. He just used the recall, though. Making this quite awkward. Drops out. Another set of drops is sent out by Clem. And, oh no, the Templar in the Prism! He has to throw him out in order to get some storms and make sure he doesn't lose the Prism in the Templar itself. But a triple drop. Somehow evaded. Wait. The Observer maybe should have seen this. He maybe just didn't have any warpins, as he's been trying to chase this down. It's drop a clock over here as Clem hitting the main and the third simultaneously. The Medivacs boxed in by the tubes, but the main base already taking a whole lot of damage. Hero is pulling it together while Clem tries to tear him apart. The Widowmine almost taking out the Prism. It doesn't quite one-shot it, but it gets damn close. Another 11 probes dead. Hero... The drops are absolutely everywhere. Pure chaos. Another topsy-turvy game. The roller coaster continues. And Hero might want to get off Mr. Clem's wild ride. Hero now sending everything across the map. 6 pylons in production. The drops are back. They're and back again. A Terran story. Clem hitting the top right corner. The probes! You could have taken the tube, but no! This is a perfect tubertunity. And I don't think you can attack them while they're in the tube. But I actually don't know Like, if there's a battle cruiser camping the tubes, we need to know. These are important things. Inquiring minds. Meanwhile, there's an army out here. The Stalkers knocks out a medevac. Charge lots closing in. Rest of the army as well. Clem's still up 20 supply. hero has no upgrades. He's just working on +1 at the moment. And knocks down another medevac. The main base. Hey. Well, Bioarmor, but there's no medevacs back here, and this has all been at least lightly stimmed, which makes it makes the storms a much more serious threat. Everything else as well, but storms especially. There's only one medevac on the map, which is kind of, why are there 2 immortals here? Did he lose a prism with 2? Wait, what? No, there's no. What? Well, Immortal's certainly not living up to their name. 2 ships, well, technically 3 ships passing in the night. Oh, they're going around. Apparently that's an air blocker. The tubes will box everything in. He's just sliding along them. Meanwhile, the Zealots. There's some storms. He loads up into the prism. Widowmine's doing terrible, terrible damage. Oh boy, the storms doing a lot of damage as well. But the prism goes down. He's wading through his own storms. He's boxed into his own base. And suddenly, hero with no Zealots, nothing back at home to defend. And hero just went from the chasm of victory to the valley. The canyon, the gutter of defeat. He just jumped off the cliff and up the ramp. He's down 60 supply. It's over. It just kind of ends. And there you go. There's the cliff. The army supply. Well, hero's done it again. Hero giveth and hero taketh away. Now, I'll say this. Unpredictable. Right up until the last 30 seconds, it was completely and utterly unclear who was winning that game. Thankfully, hero cleared it up for us. And Clem is on match point. Hero, what the Probe successfully blocked the barracks from building on location, which may end up being surprisingly relevant considering there is a gateway much of the way across the map. Alright, so he's proxy gating. Because of course he is. He's already done a lot of damage, emotionally and physically, to the SCVs. Hero does not care. Never tell me the odds. Zealot first. Clem is SCV scouting. Is this going to go right by the proxy? Is this build entirely reliant on Clem not scouting?
Our SCVs are under attack. Command center upgrade complete.
Well, yep, it was right directly, yep. Well, citizen's arrest. It's just a zealot. Like, the SCV's microback Clem just... Well, this is an absolute disaster. He gets one, yeah. I like how little respect Clem had. He saw it was a zealot. He knows what this is. And Clem, one of the best Protoss players. Get him out. One of the observers, one of the casters is out of the game. I'll stick till the end. But it certainly looks bad for hero. But sometimes that's when it ends up looking good. Somewhat paradoxically. But Clem definitely gets the jump on all this. Hero has expanded behind, but Clem has a command center even more quickly. So I'm excited to see where he goes from here. Hero probably is as well. Hero pulling out one of those 20 or 200 IQ builds where it's so dumb it becomes smart again. Unless it's dumb because it just gets countered if they SCV scout. Which, it's like... No! Get down, Mr. Pro! He successfully boxes out the Reaper from killing a probe. Which is something. It's not much, but it's something. And there's still a gateway in the center of the map building units. And it will eventually become a warp gate, and he can use that as part of the attack. The Reaper is avoiding it. Apparently you can just jump up there. How convenient. Well. Pops in to the natural. He's gonna find one probe. Other probes out of solidarity will be pulled off the line like, let me at him. It's like a baseball brawl. My favorite part about baseball brawls, I've been watching some baseball. I used to play baseball in high school, which was like a few years ago. Is when they run in from the bullpen on the outfield. So by the time everybody gets up in each other's face and says, I'm really going to be mad at you, there's another 10 dudes from both sides, sometimes running alongside one another for like 30 seconds. Like it's a Monty Python sketch every time. My favorite. All right. And they're like jogging. They're not sprinting. They're not walking. They got an urgency. Anyway, so that's what the probes chasing the Reaper is like. It's like, we're gonna get you. Like, are you? No. That's significantly less dual pistols in baseball, but you know, some of those arms are cannons. But I digress. Pretty much Clem is the Shohei Ohtani of SC2. And totally you needed that reference if you are an hour into a StarCraft 2 cast in order to know who Clem was, but here we are. So the Dodgers are like Protoss in that... sorry. Where are we? Where am I? Where are any of us? What sort of simulation are we in now? I'm way off track. So, despite everything, actually very few losses. Hero, 6 more gates. Charge is on the way. It's just a charge lot all in. Because, sure, why not? Hero just gonna go for it. Clem, a slight supply lead. He had multiple bunkers, but he just abandoned one of his bunkers and salvaged it, which means he's not expecting nearly this level of aggression. There isn't... well, it's not charge lots. It is blink. Charge is on the way. The gateways are finishing up. He might... Yeah, he just goes forward. Single siege tank. He yanks back the stalker. The bunker finishes it off, but he'll eat an extra hit. Meanwhile, the Raven... completely uncontested. Just... Oh, no. The probes! 4 probes dead. He's gonna spot no third base, and Clem... Well, he has no reason to move out then. Hero has every reason to move in. Stim and charge completing at the same time. Knocks out 1 siege tank. Another one pulled from the main. The emotional support field is thrown out as well. But Clem... hero with a dwindling amount of units. There's still 2 medevacs. The Whittle Mine taken out. The force fields are optimistic. And that's just too much. Another force field that mildly inconveniences some of the bio. I guess the reinforcements on the high ground. But hero... The Raven's just kind of hanging out. 14 SCVs died. But hero is losing more probes. The Observer was in surveillance mode. The main base warps it around to Zealots. And this is when it can get dicey. And slicey. As he eviscerates a few more SCVs. The Raven's still just hanging out. Very literally. The force field on the ramp, but there's still more than enough bio to chase this down. He's tearing right through it all. The main base... hero trying to find an angle, but Clem's acutely aware of all of it. Gonna get chased down across the board. And that's just way too much bio. Hero's down 50 supply. Is he gonna make Clem come kill him? Yep. Of course he is. Observer. Oh, there was only one. He was just scanning for it. The Raven is still going, but finally, he could target the probes, though. Does so. Gets another one. Hero's down 5. Hero's at half the supply. There's almost no scenario where that's recoverable. He's gonna finally deal with the proxy. What a disaster. But he's gonna go for it. There's no Dark Templar. He's trying to get Storm. But that is a distant dream. Warps another round. Deja vu. Oh, the target fire. The Whittle Mine slam. G! Clem rolls across the map and takes the comfortable victory. Bringing us to our anti-splitter bonus game of Clem versus Cure. Clem is Protoss. Let's see if we can get a comparison and contrast. Cure is the 3rd best Terran in the world, behind Clem and Maru. But hero, a little bit too big for his own britches, and, well, introducing in this single game a highlight. In the top left, we have Team Liquid's Clem getting engineering bay blocked by his Terran teammate, Team Liquid's Cure. Always amusing to look at the nameplates when these two face as well. Don't talk to me or my son ever again. Though Cure, a significantly older player. I guess in this scenario, whoever's better gets to be the dad. Moving on. Cure almost certainly taking most of his strategies and his inspiration from the player in blue. So I think we need some time. I kind of jumped into this. I like to jump into the anti-spoiler games because that way it's not obvious, especially in Hero series. He might bring it back. You almost never know. There's no other player who, down 50 supply, still had a chance. In that game, no. But in general, even when it looks like he's down and out, sometimes that means he's up and in. A lot of baseball references that are a little obscure here, but I digress. We're not batting 1,000 on these, but Hero versus Clem. I don't know what Hero was trying. Hero might not know what Hero was trying, but kind of a surprising amount of 2 base timings or early pressures, which I guess sometimes it works out and there's nothing to be critical of. But when it doesn't work out, it looks less than ideal, to say the very least. Clem losing the first adept, which is also less than ideal. It's also going to take a little adapting here when we have Clem as the Protoss in blue, and another 4-letter Team Liquid Terran, starting with C, in the red. But I think I'll be able to wrap my head around that. I'm supposedly a professional. Well, at least I play one on the internet. What's important is you say it with confidence, all right? Doesn't matter what you're saying. As long as you remind people to like and subscribe, and you have a cadence that lends confidence to itself. You don't want to pretend like you don't know what you're talking about. ChatGPT, what am I... No. No. Anyways. No. I threw up in my mouth a little bit, but... Here we are. Clem, with a much more sane opener. This is the Protoss versus Terran opener. We got 2-gate blink with a robo and a third base. This is your safety expand. Whereas Cure is going for the standard 1-1-1, the Destiny Cloud Fizz build, the barracks, the factory, the starport, to get access to all your tech early, and then you can kind of split off whichever direction you're interested in from there. We don't mind drop. Will be an existential threat. Those should be diffused with some ease. He's trying to get the medevac as well. The Widowmines are a freebie. The medevac just a half step out of range. A single stalker will be enough. Patrolling the edges. Loses 2 mines. A bit of mining time, but should tick back up momentarily. Blink is done. Immediately queuing up charge. I'm looking for that mass gateway style as opposed to a quick Robo Bay. Though charge is something you get either way. Like Robo Bay is the more likely follow-up, but there's no reason not to get charged. In fact, it's a liability if you don't. We got extra gates. Cure is adding on the barracks. Oh, Stalker. Taking a bit of an awkward path, but gets a couple SCVs and gets out. There's the Robo Bay. Out of Clem. Still patrolling for that medevac. The Raven. Observer. We'll see who notices it first. Clem backs off, but it's not quite in time. The auto turret snipes off the Observer itself. 4 more gates on the way. Gonna fill this in. Clem making sure he has full production. It's a little odd seeing such a coherent strategy after watching hero for 4 games in a row. The triple threat. Wait, no. No engineering bay. Just stim and combat shield. No upgrades for Cure. Is he gonna pull the voice? No third command center. No engineering base. That means he needs to get something done before Clem has too much time on his third base. Because eventually Clem's economy will be enough to just overwhelm. But a couple siege tanks, a bunch of marauders. And by a bunch, I mean 2, 3. More than none. Observer spotting for everything. The Observer's going to see no third command center. It will just now see the engineering bay. Cure. With this bio timing, a single Colossus will be completed. Extended thermal lance has just begun. But there's just too much. Right, Clem has too much on the ground right now. Gonna take out the Zerg rocks, help him along. And anti-armor missile. Dorito dusting the majority of the army. And this actually might be the timing to engage. Notably, Clem not even opting for a forge, so we won't have upgrades for quite a while yet. Of course, Cure in the same boat. It just means Clem won't have any advantages except his unit composition, potentially. He's also been pretty light on building additional probes. Only 10 more than Cure has on 2 bases. He definitely hasn't been building the 3 at a time. He could be off those next time. Forge begins, but Cure still working his way around. Just glancing blows for either side so far. Exactly 130, well, almost exactly 140 supply apiece. 4th base on the way for Clem. Forge finishing up. +1 infantry weapons halfway done for Cure. But we're still flirting with the idea of an engagement, but neither willing to put a ring on it so far. A single Widow mine has yet to be scouted. Awkward. softens up a chunk of the Zealots. Stalker's waiting for an opportunity, but Kier's kind of already retreated into his shell somewhat. He put his army out there, he thought about it, and then he thought better of it when he saw Clem's army. This is your more typical... I was talking about... I did throw Kier under the bus earlier. But when I said, it just kind of looks like those players, except... not quite as good. Well, here we have Kier. Sitting back, building up. Clem has 172 supplies been allowed. So this is the most dangerous time for Terran. For the next couple minutes. Pretty much before you have a solid 3 bases, ideally 4. Before you have multiple starports. When Protoss has been able to expand and build with almost impunity. Where we're getting to 200 supply, and even if you have 200 supply of Terran, you cannot refill. Essentially, Protoss is the new Zerg, since Zergs are effectively extinct at this stage. Where you get enough gateways and enough robos to have the weapons of mass production. You can refill 30, 40 supply almost instantaneously before the Terrans can refill half that. And it looks like Clem is going to go for that kind of wave defense style. Has a nearly no rush 10 minutes. But we're about to hit that marker. And Clem, standing on the edge. It looks like the fight will begin at almost exactly 10 minutes. Piling in from either side. But the Widowmine softened up a lot. The Vikings are in position. And Clem just kind of loses a huge chunk of his units without getting anything done. Well, maybe learning a little bit too much from hero. A Dark Shrine and Double Ruptor on the way. The double Ds of destruction in the production tab. Still working his way around. Kier is maxed out with no intentions of moving out. He's got another starport. 3 more racks on the way. 4th command center. But he's kind of tucked himself in. Clem. 9 gates and counting. The disruptors in the mix. After 4 or 5 colossi, it just becomes a liability. They're actually so thick that they struggle to move around. And they share a lot of problems with your mother in that. The disruptors are something to add that extra threat of splash damage and force you to micro it away that the colossi don't. And they don't get countered by Vikings, at least not nearly as easily. A fusion core on the way for Kier as he goes towards the extreme late game. Another army split off to the 4th base, but Kier loses the Raven. But the bio army is far too much for any sort of gateway unit army to deal with. And here we go. Kier is slowly building up into that super late game Terran. But Clem, I'm sure, is very aware of the weaknesses and strengths of Protoss at this stage. Where are the Stalkers? He should have been more aware of the lack of Stalkers with this army. Kier scans it, realizes it immediately. Will knock down a Colossus for almost free. Clem pops 2 Guardian Shields. Well preemptively. Before the fight even starts. Gets it, he's just gonna go for the orbital. Flings out a couple Ruptors. Hits the center mass. 2 more! Another massive chunk! And Clem comes in and just guillotines half the army. Loses his Colossi to the Vikings. But he killed the orbital. And, well, the Vikings hit the deck. Clem can retreat, a fighting retreat with the Blink Stalkers, fadeaway shot with the Ruptors. And overall, Clem loses a lot of supply, but he hits the objective. He wanted to kill the base, he got it, and he got a big chunk of the army as well. He's gonna fight the Stalkers blinking back. Disruptor almost cooled up as it fires off a shot. It connects center mass. The charge lot's cutting off the reinforcements, and Kier. And that's it. He's just dead. Kier steps too far. Clem melts his face, cuts off his knees, and just wins the game. And that's the difference. Well, I didn't expect... Jimmy, we gotta pick some... I know it was a good example, but... Well, We see at least some successful Protoss in the more macro-oriented games today. But herO coming up a little short, though in an entertaining fashion. Clem showing why he's arguably the best. Well, he's definitely the best Terran. And, well, there's some arguments for Protoss as well. But hopefully you enjoyed at least a bit as much as I did. It'll be hard to equal it. And I hope I made your day at least a little bit better. Thank you for watching. If you got the means of motivation, it'd be awesome to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free. At least for now. So, thank you to our Mule Tier patrons bringing in the extra minerals. Big Jiggy, Devin Door, Kate, Mario, Suit. Make sure to check out Winter Gaming TV, the second channel for more streams, more strategy games, if you're into those. I assume. But... And this video that Jimmy picked out just for you. Otherwise, thank you for watching. I hope to see you next time. Good luck, have fun. Stay chill.